In today's lesson, you'll need to complete the 20 question grid which is displayed on the screen. This is the same set of questions from the previous grid test that I've set for you, however the numbers are different. You should aim to answer all the questions, showing all of your working out. If you're struggling with any of the questions, you can use the video explanations at the end of this video to help you. Likewise, I've attached additional video links to the Show My Homework tasks that offer further guidance. Once you've finished, please check your answers against the solutions that are posted onto Show My Homework and correct any mistakes. When you're happy with your work, you should submit a photo of it to Show My Homework so I can see how you've got on. Question 1 will always be a question about solving equations. In this particular question, it asks us to solve the equation 5x plus 3 equals 3x plus 11. Now, our goal when we're solving this is trying to get all of the unknown parts onto one side and the number parts onto another. So first of all, let's rewrite the question. Let's say that I want the left side to have all my x's and I want my right side to have all my numbers. Remember that this equal sign we want to split, and that is where our balance occurs. So on this left hand side here we want only x's, on this right side we want only numbers. If I look first in the x side, I have a positive 3 which I want to get rid of, so I can do that by taking 3 away. Now, in order to keep the balance of both sides, I need to do it to the right side as well. And also looking in my numbers side, this positive 3x that I have just here, I want to get rid of, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides as well. Now, working downwards like a sum, 5x take away 3x leaves me with 2x. Positive 3 take away 3 cancels each other out and gives me nothing. Likewise, 3x minus 3x gives me nothing, and positive 11 take away 3 gives me 8. So what I'm left with is 2x equals 8. I'm nearly finished, so the last thing that I want to do is to work out what 1x is. So because 2x means 2 times by x, I need to divide both sides by 2, or half my answer, and that will give me that 1x is equal to 4. Question 2 will always ask you to expand and simplify some brackets. In order to do this, we need to know two things. First of all, how to expand the brackets, and secondly, how to collect the like terms together at the end and simplify this answer. I'm going to start by writing the question out again. So we have 4 lots of 2x plus 1, and we want to add to that 3 lots of 2x plus 1. Now, first of all, if I split the question down this line here, hopefully you can see that on the left side we have a single bracket that we can expand, and we also have a single bracket on the right hand side that we can expand as well. Let's start on the left hand side. So we have 4 on the outside. We want to times this by everything inside our bracket. So 4 times 2x gives us 8x, and 4 times positive 1 gives us positive 4. That's the left side done. On the right hand side we have positive 3 at the front. Please just be careful to have a look at this sign here, because obviously if it's negative you have to think about the rules of timesing by negative numbers. So in this case we have positive 3 times by 2x, that gives us positive 6x, and then we have positive 3 times by positive 1, which gives us positive 3 at the end. Now for this particular one I've written this positive sign here because essentially we're going to want to collect these like terms together now and simplify them. So first of all, looking at our x terms just here, we've got 8x plus 6x. Again, think really carefully about what the signs in front of your terms are. 8x plus 6x gives us 14 x's in total, and then likewise we've got positive 4 and positive 3. If I have positive 4 and add 3 to it, I end up with positive 7. So that's my answer, 14x plus 7. Question 3 will always be a question that's either a decimal multiplication or a division that's probably going to end up with a decimal in the answer. Let's start by looking at the decimal multiplication question. First thing that you should do is imagine this question as if it had no decimal places in. So I want to work out what 15 times 15 is. I can use a column multiplication to work this out. First of all, I would do 5 times 5, which is 25. Secondly, 5 times 1 is 5, with the 2 that I've carried over gives me 7 for this first column. Secondly, I need to add a 0 into the first column here, because I'm now timesing by not just 1, but actually 10. And I can continue then to do 1 times 5, which is 5, and 1 times 1, which is 1. Now adding these two answers together, I get 5 and nothing is 5, 7 and 5 is 12, 1 and the 1 that's just been carried over gives me 2, so this is 225. Now I'm nearly done, but obviously at the beginning I ignored the decimal place that was in my question, so because there was one decimal place in my question, I need to make sure that I put one decimal place in my answer. That means the answer is 22.5. The decimal place simply goes at the end, so you divide your answer by 10. If there were two decimal places in my question, so let's say it was 1.5 times 1.5, I'd need to move this decimal place another further place back, and therefore there would be two decimal places in my answer. Okay, so now let's have a look at the division question, which is 84 divided by 35. Now, trying to divide by 35 in one go might be quite challenging, so what we can do in this particular case is split the question up into two divisions just to make it a little bit simpler. Now to do that, we know that 35 could be written as 7 times 5 for instance, and therefore instead of dividing by 35 in one go, we could first divide by 7 and then divide by 5 afterwards, or likewise we could divide by 5 first and then divide by 7. That would give us the same answer. So let's start off by dividing 84 by 7. Got our bus stop. We do 8 divided by 7, which is 1, remainder 1, and then next we do 14 divided by 7, which is 2, meaning my answer so far is 12. I then want to divide my new answer, which is 12, by this remaining 5, so I'm going to put a 5 on the outside and have my bus stop again and put 12 on the inside. Again, 1 divided by 5 this time would be 0, remainder 1, and 12 divided by 5 would give me 2, remainder 2. Now, because we don't have anywhere to write this remainder 2, what I'm going to do is put a decimal point and add a 0 on the end, because 12.0 is essentially the same as 12, but I now have somewhere that I can put this 2 onto. As such, there's a decimal point here. I can ensure that my decimal point stays in line, and then I can work out that 20 divided by 5 is 4, which gives me my answer of 2.4. And because I've now divided by both 7 and 5, that is my answer as if I had divided by 35 in one go. So 2.4. Question 4 will always be a question about percentages of amounts. I think there's 3 things that are really important if you're trying to work out a percentage without a calculator. First thing is that 10% of an amount you can work out by dividing the amount by 10. 5% is obviously half of this, so you take whatever your answer is for 10% and divide it by 2, and 1% is the amount that you're trying to work the percentage of divided by 100. Now, I think these first 2 are going to be important for us. This last one is certainly important for you to know, but you won't need it for these sorts of questions at the moment. So our question is asking us to work out 15% of £28. I'm going to start off by working out what 10% and 5% of £28 is. So 10% would be 28 divided by 10, which gives me 2.8, which means £2.80. 5% we said is half of this, so I need to take £2.80 and divide it by 2. That gives me £1.40. And lastly, I need to think about how many 10s and how many 5s I need to get 15%. Now, because there's one 10 and one 5, I can simply add these two answers together. So 0 add 0 is nothing, 8 add 4 is 12, 2, 1, and the 1 that I carried over gives me £4.20. Now, this one's particularly nice because the 10 and the 5 we simply add together to get 15. However, if I wanted 25%, for example, I'd need to double or have 2 lots of the 10% and 1 lot of the 5. If I wanted 35%, I'd need 3 lots of the 10% and 1 of the 5. Or if I wanted 70%, I'd simply need 7 lots of the 10%. So think carefully about what amounts of each percentage you need and then add them all together at the end. Question 5 will always be a question on sharing in a ratio. There's 3 things that you need to remember. First of all, add, then divide, and then times. So, firstly, add together the ratios. 3 add 5 is 8. What that's telling us is that each time we give £3 to the first person and £5 to the second, we're giving £8 away in total. So 3, 5, 3, 5. We're going to repeat this until we've given all of our £56 away. Next thing is dividing. If we do 56 divided by this £8 that we're giving away each time, that tells us that by giving 3 and then 5 each time, I can repeat this process 7 times before all of my £56 is gone. And the last step is timesing. So I'm going to take my ratio 3 to 5 and I want to times both parts of that by this 7 that I got as my answer. That means 3 lots of 7 is 21, meaning the first person is going to get £21, and 5 times by 7 is 35. That means the second person is going to get £35. Question 6 will always be a question on order of operations. Order of operations is what a lot of you will refer to as BODMAS or BIDMAS. Now, the only thing I want to point out is that when you get to the very latter stages with only adding and subtracting left, do the question in the order that it appears in, because sometimes the negatives can get quite confusing. You will still get the right answer if you do this. Our question is asking us to work out what 30 take away 3 times 7 is. So going through the order of operations, either BODMAS or BIDMAS, B stands for brackets, which there are none. O or I stands for order or indices, and again we have no powers in our question. And D for division, there are no divide signs in this question. When we get to M, however, which is multiply or multiplication, we do have 3 times 7, so I'm going to underline that part of the question and work it out first. 3 times by 7 is 21, and I therefore need to bring the rest of this question down in the order that it appears in. So the 30 and the subtract sign comes before 21 because it's before 3 times 7 in our question. If there were parts to the right of 3 times 7, they would come down on the right of 21. At this point, I would carry on going through and I'd check to make sure there's not any more multiplications. We've then got addition and subtraction. Because we've only got a subtraction left, however, we can just work out that 30 take away 21 is 9, and that is our answer. Question 7 will always ask you to work out a specific term of a given sequence. The sequence that we're given is n squared plus 1, and it wants us to work out the 9th term. That means that we need to set n equal to 9 and substitute it into this expression. So, if n is 9, n squared plus 1 means 9 squared plus 1. 9 squared is obviously 81, and therefore 81 add the 1 at the end gives us 82. What that means is if I continue the terms of this sequence all the way up to the 9th, that value would be 82. Question 8 will always be a question on factorising into a single bracket. The idea of factorising is that you're trying to take out the highest common factor of each term in the expression and leave the rest of it in a bracket. In our particular question, we have 21x take away 14y. If I start off by looking at the numbers 21 and 14, the highest common factor of them is 7, because 7 divides into both 14 and 21. You want this number here to be the biggest possible value. Now, in this particular question, 7 is the only factor which is in each term of this expression. However, it's important to look at the letters as well, as you might be able to take out an x or a y or even an x squared term at the front as well. However, because we only have an x here and only a y here, we can't take any letters out of this expression. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my brackets in and think about what would happen if I took a factor of 7 out of each of these two terms here. To work this out, I can take 21x and divide the factor of 7 out. So 21 divided by 7 would be 3, meaning that 21x divided by 7 is 3x. And likewise, if I have minus 14y, 14 divided by 7 is 2, so 14y divided by 7 would be 2y. And that would be my final answer. Question 9 is asking us to express 48 as a product of primes. Now, in order to do this, we need to know what our prime numbers are. Our prime numbers between 1 and 20 are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, and 19. You do need to know these, they're important to recognise, and you may be asked to know some of them even beyond 20 all the way up to 50 or even 100, so please make sure you learn them. Now, in our particular question, we're asked to write 48 as a product of primes. So we're going to start off with 48. This word product means multiplication, basically, times together. So we want primes which multiply to give 48. I'm going to get this by thinking about what numbers times together to give 48. And a pair of them would be 6 and 8. 6 times 8 is 48. Once I've split them up, I want to have a look at both of these numbers and see if any of them are prime. 6 and 8 are not, so I need to look at each of these individual numbers and split them up further. So 6, for instance, I can write as 2 times 3. Now, in this particular case, 2 and 3 are both in my prime number list, so I want to circle them to say that they are prime. Again, 8 I can split up into 2 times 4, and again 2 is prime, so I want to circle it. 4 is not, so I'm going to carry on. 4 is the same as 2 times 2, and therefore we end up with our final 2 primes just there. Now, in order to write as a product of primes this number 48, we want to take all of these prime numbers that we've circled and multiply them together. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 2's, and I have a 3 just here. Notice how all of these numbers are being multiplied. That's because it's a product. It's really important that you put these times signs in. Now, if I have 4 2's that are all being multiplied, an even simpler way of writing this would be 2 to the power 4 times by 3. And this is what we call index form. If you're asked to write a product of primes, either of these two answers is fine. If it asks for index form, you have to write this second version just here. Lastly, the 10th question is always going to be talking about how much change you'd get if you spend certain amounts of money. In our particular question, we're spending £7.45, £2.10 and £5.99. So what I'm going to suggest is that we work out how much we've spent in total. 5, 0 and 9 added together gives me 14. 1, 4, 1 and 9 gives me 15. And 1, 7, 2 and 5 gives me 15. So I think we've spent £15.54 on these 3 items just here mentioned. Now we want to work out how much change we get from £20. So the next thing is to take 20 and subtract 15.54 from that. Now firstly, I'm going to want to borrow from this 2 just here to make this 10. I'm going to need to borrow from that 10 to make this 10, and then borrow from this 10 again here to make this 10 here. And now I can finally start working my question out. 10 take away 4 is 6, 9 take away 5 is 4, decimal point needs to stay in line, 9 take away 5 is 4, and 1 take away 1 is nothing. So my final answer is £4.46. If you are struggling to complete some of the work from today's lesson, then please do not hesitate to get in touch via comment on Show My Homework. I'll try to make myself as available as possible and get a reply to you as quickly as I can. If the issue requires a little bit more input from myself, I might ask to arrange a time to meet on Teams where I can give you some personalised help with that specific problem.